Well, hello again, ladies and gentlemen. This is your friend Noe. In this video, it's kind of different than what I normally do, but I felt it was time that we all see just how scared the left wing of America is with what has been going on since January. Many of you know, and you've seen, and I've done a couple of the letters on here. We have a local small newspaper that I knew who the owner was, and I know what her political stance is, and that's why it was kind of surprising that she was actually publishing my letters. Well, for about 2 months, it was fine. She was doing it. But then, once the Trump derangement syndrome set in, and the she has, I'm pretty sure, I'd almost dare say, she's paying this guy as a paid contributor because he's a guy out of New York City. He's moved up around here, and now he lives here. And for the past year and a half, it's just almost every single week, and it's just left wing hate. Hate speech for the right, hate speech, hate speech, hate speech, cut down, belittle. He mocks God. He cuts down anybody that is not from the left wing and they have different views. And then he sits there and he talks about hatred of how we hate and our nasty flags and this and that and all this crap. And he just, and she prints it, no problem. So I did here last fall is I called him out on it, and she actually printed it. And she says, "Oh yeah, no problem." And I talked to her in an email, and your letters are welcome here anytime. And well, here about a month and a half ago, the left wing so-called, he calls himself, he calls himself an author. And why I think he's a paid columnist or writer for her is that she's got his picture in there and a little bio about how he's an author, and he sells his short stories of the Brooklyn experience, which I can just imagine. Brooklyn, New York. And he sells this stuff on Kindle. Now that'll be key later on when you see what happened. And well, I submitted an article, or an opinion article, and she printed it. And I'll show you that here in a minute, but this is the local newspaper. Goes by the Reporter. It used to be the Waterboro Reporter, but now it's just the Reporter. She had sold it for a while. This was many years, I'd say probably 8-9 years ago. She had sold it to a local far left propaganda media source. And of course, then the paper really went to crap because they couldn't make any money on it. So she got it back. She got the rights to it back. And what we've all around this town and in southern Maine have noticed is that anytime any Democrat or left-wing person wants to attack people, she prints it right there, and what I call Bernie Sanders 2.0, which is Anus King. Angus King, senator from Maine. That he was always a Democrat, but then to get elected, he went as an independent. But he's got very corrupt, dirty dealings. Now, this is the letter from like a month and a half ago, in like the second, third week of January. No creative minds left. I have always been an open-minded free thinker, and one that can spot falsehoods in seconds.
I have never taken anyone's words as fact until it is clearly proven as such. I remember back in the 1970s when you could go to a library and pick up a good book, one that could be of fiction or even factual, one written with no agenda but to teach or entertain. We had writers that would take you away from this world and place you clearly into theirs. We have even had real science and proven facts, facts you could see and hear with only one's eyes and ears. The one I love the most, the Bible, a true telling of how we came to be and how our selfishness would in time lead to our demise. As a young man, being the wild child I was, these warnings fell by the wayside, as did the years. Still, I enjoyed the stories by Mark Twain, Charles Dickens, Jules Verne, and even the great laughs of Dr. Seuss. As the years passed by, I noticed very few new writers seemed to show up, but still found those like George Orwell, Ayn Rand, even the new age of J.K. Rowling. I always seem to go back to the one I loved the most, the Bible. Now this is where it gets real. As time passed by, I saw a disturbing pattern. Writers and authors no longer created great stories, only hate-filled lies, opinions, falsehood, insults, calling them facts. The news media no longer told the truth as it filled the airways with agenda-driven propaganda. Schools did not educate, instead they indoctrinate. Most new books today are so filled with outright lies and vile attacks by the liberals on any that see the real truth, they are not worth one's time. I guess as they say, if you tell a lie over and over, it will become the truth. Take socialism, for instance. Democrats want people to believe taxpayer-funded services like law enforcement, highway departments, and even fire and rescue are a socialist program. Sadly, this is just not true. These are public services. The taxes used to fund services have a benefit. You don't call the IRS when you break your leg and need to get to the doctor on roads you gladly help pay for, or even when you're being robbed. I love when a typical liberal calls politicians textbook socialism. Sorry, they are parasites. A parasite feeds off its host until the host in time dies. And today their hosts, taxpayers, are in fact passing away. Ask yourself this one question when liberals cry, "We need welfare programs to help end poverty." So why after 50 plus years and hundreds of billions, if not trillions, spent for Democrats' war on poverty, have they only created more poverty? It is their end game. You will own nothing and be happy. Many Mainers struggle to buy food or heat their homes due to the crushing taxes and fees, along with all the hidden taxes and cost of regulations on businesses driving up the cost of living. But migrants get new housing with free rent, food, healthcare, electricity, internet, and $3,000 a month to spend on whatever they wish. You think I'm lying? Ask the cold, hungry people of Bath that got turned away from the new taxpayer-funded housing that was built for them, but given to these, I'll be nice. This is in fact textbook socialism. Socialism is when government takes from those that produce, keeps most of it, then gives the rest to those that mooch, buying their loyalty, which keeps them in power. Upon the creation of digital books, this truth was lost. What do I mean? I can pick up a book from the 70s, bring up the same publication online and see it no longer speaks the truth, but is a lie to deceive people. It takes a very simple, closed-minded people to Google something and truly believe it is factual. The effect of a lie is not that it's untrue, but how many people will believe the lie is true. Just look at the ones they call authors today. Most do not have their works published in a real book form, but sell only digital copies. These can be taken away by the e-book store and even changed without your consent or knowledge. This is because you must have a device hooked to the internet to buy it, a nice back door to what you think you own. It is truth that in the past few years Kindle has done this with many publications per orders of the liberal cancel culture. Sadly, we have lost our creative minds, so it has been replaced with opinionated hate mongers who belittle anyone that refuse the liberal cancel culture. These people write opinion pieces, so-called authors, and even how to find their writings on some ebook site. If an opinion piece is so filled with lies, to whom liberals and Democrats truly are, just imagine their short stories. This brings me to the most unsettling part of all. I have spent years reading and studying my Bible. I can understand it, see the clear truth God wanted us to know, even witness just how right it is when it comes to His children in this world today. I sadly turn from churches of today. They insult us, saying they must explain what we are reading because we are not smart enough to understand, even as we can see this explanation is wrong. I think they missed study to show yourself approved. With most people not reading their Bibles, leaders of these churches can skip parts which may hurt one's feelings, which has now changed the true meaning of what God intended. Any man of God that ignores truth told in the Bible is no man of God. In order to walk a righteous path in life, one must have the truth free from agenda-driven opinions to indoctrinate. We must be allowed to see the truth and take it as we see fit, without the hate, insults, and shaming from the disrespectful liberals. One needs to know when they pick up a book that it is truthful and not filled with left-wing propaganda. We must be allowed to think for ourselves and not be attacked because we do not want our hard-earned money going to those who refuse to do for themselves, as most of us have done. It is a shame what passes for authors these days. But what would one expect from a country that spends $800 billion plus on K-12 education per year, more than the top 18 countries combined, while ranking 26 in reading and writing and arithmetic? Funny how schools calling these the 3 R's of education pretty much says it all.
So there you have it. That was the letter. And that set off this clown from New York that now lives around here. And he went off on a tirade. He sent in this article, and he's cutting me. He's not using my name because he doesn't want libel. So he's belittling me, belittling what I wrote, calling me a terrorist because I believe in the Bible, and my go-to book all the time is the Bible, and he states in there that, oh well, yeah, you know, like ISIS their go-to book is the Quran. But this tirade that he want, people came to me and said, can you understand what he's saying? And I says, no, I can't. Because even in his letter, and I'm not going to put that out there to you, I'm not going to give him any credit, but I'll give you the highlights of it. First and foremost, he's telling us that God gave us this community that's, they got a whole month of June praising them, and they've destroyed women's sports, and we're supposed to accept them, and the churches are bowing down to them, and government's bowing down to them. The schools are forcing it onto our children. And he's saying God gave us that community, and God has seen how we're going to treat them. Well, us true Christians know what God thinks of that community, and that'll come out in this next letter. But he went on, and he uses Kindle to make money to sell his short stories on. And in this letter, he attacked Kindle, saying they laid off all these writers and publishers and everything because the greed of the CEO. Really? Do you think maybe it's because Kindle was changing the writings in the digital copy and literally going into your e-reader and taking out a publication because they're banning it because liberal cancel culture, and all this will be here. So I guess the best thing, this was my reply that I learned real quick. She refused to publish it. More or less me sticking up for myself and other good Christians and everything. She refused. So when I saw that it didn't show up, I waited a couple weeks and I submitted, as just in case you didn't. And of course, no, now she's totally, completely ignoring me. Won't even give me an explanation. Nothing. She wants nothing to do with my writings anymore. Nothing. But you know what is in the paper now? Angus King throwing a fit and putting out lies and propaganda with his Trump derangement syndrome. Of, what he's doing is illegal, which it's not illegal. Carried on this past week, a few days ago, about how he's cutting VA benefits, which is going to take the needed benefits away from our vets. And, well, no. The funding for the VA that was cut and called into question was not going to veterans' benefits. It was going to fund all this lunacy in other countries, and probably the green energy deal that Angus King gets millions of dollars in kickbacks for windmills, all through a company that he was a named partner, but now he's a silent partner because the money's coming from DC and through all these corrupt, fraudulent channels to fund all these windmills that comes from a certain company down in Massachusetts that he's all a big part of. He's just as corrupt as all the rest. And he's upset because it's all being exposed. So his writings are in there, but she refuses to publish this.
Ruffled feathers. I see once again the truth has ruffled a few feathers. This caused an unhinged liberal meltdown. True writings of 60 to 100 years past was not a good way to prove his point. Those are not of today. Okay, maybe the hobbits. Let's blame it on the pen like liberals do with weapons. Rogue pen writes unhinged rant over facts in an opinion article. In other news, a self-firing weapon goes on a killing spree. Never the fault of one brainwashed by endless liberal hate and lies, right? Maybe he can come back with some writers from the last 20 years that are not filled with liberal, agenda-driven woke propaganda. He lashed out at an e-book site he uses, truly making no sense. What about the millions of good American jobs socialist Democrats sent to other countries? Oh, that must be the greed of the CEOs. Could it be the Democrats' pockets that they padded to tax, regulate, and pass laws causing it? Let's look at some facts about socialism, communism, and capitalism. Clearly, that truth is more than some can handle. Socialism always fails when government runs out of other people's money. Well, it already happened. Maine is billions in debt. So I will take the spray-painted president over Comrade General Mills wanting more taxes from producers for Democrat handouts any day. Every state is billions in debt, and the federal government is trillions in debt. So our country is well on its way to becoming a communist country. Socialism becomes communism when the free market capitalist system is bankrupt by government. Most liberals have never read or studied the truth of world communism, and now it has taken over and bought every politician in our local, state, and federal governments. Why does government cause hardship and bankrupt business? They need the people to become dependent on handouts. For instance, dairy farming. Government took it over through regulation in the 80s. Now it spends $218 billion a year in subsidies, so a gallon of milk costs you $5, but costs the dairy farmer $12. You are paying for this subsidy. Today they control healthcare, all farming, energy, transportation, communications, education, and financial. They are even blackmailing all 50 states to comply or be punished. The Democrats' playbook is spelled out clearly in the Fabian Society, Cloward and Piven Strategy, and even Hillary Clinton's favorite book, Rules for Radicals by Saul Alinsky. Read the real truth, not fabricated lies from Wikipedia. Sadly, you will learn this truth as you struggle to survive under the crushing weight of what may become the communist states of America. This may ruffle the feathers, but the truth can set one free from liberal slavery. Liberals are very thin-skinned and easily offended when people call out their lies and hatred of others. If what liberals push as fact unto the public was true, they would not become so vile, angry, insulting, and downright nasty when their facts are proven wrong. Those of us that have studied the Bible can see the truth, not those that use it as a means to insult believers and call us terrorists like ISIS. Mocking God never ends well for the mockers. What right does a teacher have to tell a child of 7, 8, or even 9 they are not the gender they were born with? Or some delusional doctor telling parents he must medicate or mutilate their son so he will not harm himself? All lies told by Democrats and their minions, aka teachers. Statistics prove 3 in 5 do take their lives, but after the treatment and not before. God did not give us this community. Man did. Man even gave it a name, gender dysphoria. This helped create billions for the Democrat-protected unhealth care doctors and Big Pharma's newly created disorder. You do know this is to stop population growth, right? 8 years ago, Bill Gates said the world had to stop the growth of the human race. Look it up. It is out there for all to see. Why in nature are there only 2 genders? But the human race now has 76? Trust the science, anyone? This is because of a forced delusion pressured onto the young minds of children by a godless school system. To claim God gave us this community is like claiming an apple can become a pear because we say so. God is very clear about his disdain for this lifestyle. Sadly for liberals, they only mock God's word and twist the meaning to fit their hatred for it. God spoke of many things he sees as an abomination before him. That lifestyle is right at the top of the list. Speaking the truth to help save one's soul is not hatred. It is love for one's fellow man. Liberal lies are to deceive with hatred for real truth. The age-old argument from liberals has always been, men wrote the Bible. Yes, this is true. Men did write the Bible, but it was inspired by God, meaning that God told them what to write, and they did as he asked. When John was sent to Patmos Island, he was given the words to write to 7 churches, shown the future of mankind to write down what he witnessed and put forth a book called Revelation. This was a warning to all people of this earth to see how their selfishness and deceived minds will lead to their demise. The letters were given to him as a message from God to Jesus to the Spirit that gave the words to him. The rest of the book he witnessed himself. John was brought up to heaven in the Spirit and was to write down what he saw. The Bible is one of love and forgiveness, with a clear truth of how vengeance is God's and God's alone. Even his wrath for all that deny God and ignore his laws. I must be a terrorist for believing in God and his words in the Bible. The Bible teaches us, do not what the world demands of us, only what God asks of us. Sorry, that is not go forth and slaughter the innocent for not complying with a book of hatred, created by men to create a violent religion. God teaches government is a reflection of the people. So we got what Democrats wanted, using hatred, indoctrination, violence, and fraud. This is not a government-based faith. God wants us to govern ourselves through his teachings. Our founding fathers set that very system up. Socialist Democrats, aka Southern plantation owners, creators of the KKK and Planned Parenthood, destroyed it over the next 200 plus years. That truth would not make a good unhinged rant now, would it? Let's mock God claiming spray-painted president lies then. Unlike liberals in America, I have faith in my Creator and no faith in man. I send in these writings as a means to educate readers of the truth that has been lost in the communist world of indoctrination. As God states, wisdom is free to those who seek it. God knows my heart, and those that are seeking truth will find it when they need it most. I do make videos reading both sides and place it on multiple platforms. My listeners get a kick out of the unhinged that hate the spray-painted president more than they love the country supporting them, namely the producers whom governments steal from daily. Sadly, most people do not put their faith in God, but instead put their faith in man. God will not give you free stuff that others have earned. If you believe in him, he will open doors so you can earn what you desire. With God, the hate from others will roll off your shoulders, never allowing the evil that rules over them to rule over you. Many cannot see how they have been deceived by the ones that are also being deceived. If you put your faith in man, then man will always be your controlling master. If you put your faith in God, then God will always be your path for good in a world of evil.
So there it is. Oh, she refuses. She will not print that. She's ignoring me. So I would dare say old Angus King, Angus King, probably had something to say about it. Because if it comes from Comrade General Mills, she's biting off more than she can chew, trust me. And luckily she's gone in another year. She's termed out. We'll never have to deal with her again. It's just what's Maine going to get to replace it? They control media in Maine. The Democrats do. So I would probably say that she's probably getting funding and kickbacks to favor a certain political group. And she was probably told, that's enough of that guy. But who knows? I can't prove it. So what I will ask is, please share this around and show people exactly, it doesn't matter what kind of media it is. If the owner has any form of left-leaning, then the freedom of speech and the indoctrination and the propaganda from the left will be pushed. And you're not going to be able to combat it other than what we do here. Because I know of quite a few people now that are telling their friends, and their friends will tell their friends, that they've had enough. It doesn't matter that the newspaper's free. She'll find that nobody's picking it up anymore, and people are done with her left-wing crap. And when her circulation drops below a certain point, people are going to stop advertising in the paper and paying for this, thinking, why? It's not going to benefit me any. Nobody's reading it anymore. Because you know what happens. You know what happens when you go woke. You go broke. And, instead of being open-minded and fair and balanced and here, let's tell both sides of the story and let the people make up their own mind. She is a typical liberal, and she wants to control what people think to be true. And it's being pushed by all the corrupt Democrats from D.C. to Augusta. And yes, even a lot of local politicians that are all bought and paid for. So hopefully you can help me out and send this around to people and get them to read it and put it on your social media, a link to it and stuff. Let people see this is what's happening, and this is how bad the Trump derangement syndrome is getting in America. He won, we won, and we're taking back America if they like it or not. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, this is No Way Out.